Definitions of distance learning. Garrison and Shale say that distance education implies that the majority of educational communication between and among teacher and students occurs non-contiguously at different times and at different places, separating the instructor and tutor from the learner. It must involve two-way communication between and among teacher and students for the purpose of facilitating and supporting the educational process. It uses technology to mediate the necessary two-way communication. Barker has defined distance education from the perspective of dominant technologies. He says telecommunications based distance education approaches are an extension beyond the limits of correspondence study. The teaching learning experience for both instructor and students occurs simultaneously. It is contiguous in time. When an audio and a video communication link is employed, the opportunity for live teacher-student exchanges in real time is possible, thereby permitting immediate response to student inquiries and commands. Much like a traditional classroom setting, students can seek on-the-spot clarification from the speaker. Correspondence education, which is the initial form of distance education, developed in the mid-19th century in Europe and then spread to the United States and to other countries. Initially, distance education used the finest technology available at that time, the postal system, to open educational prospects to people who wanted to study but were not able to attend traditional schools. People who gained most from correspondence education were women, professional people, physically disabled, and individuals who lived in areas where schools didn't exist. Isaac Pitman, a British, is attributed to pioneering the concept of distance education. He started by teaching shorthand through correspondence in 1840. Students were asked to copy passages from Bible and send them for grading through the new penny post system. Distance education went through a major change after the invention of radio in the 1920s and the arrival of television in the 1940s. Distance education is increasingly using combination of different technologies to improve communication between teachers and students. In 20th century, after the arrival of modern computers, distance education took a big leap. Now, the teacher and students can converse in real time. Students from university level have used the conferencing technique known as one-way video, two-way audio, where pictures from television are transmitted to particular sites. People can reply to the newscaster through telephone. Television pictures can also be broadcasted in two directions at the same time through telephone lines, so that teachers and students at one place can see and hear teachers and students in other places. First generation distance education. The information and communications technology of first generation distance education was written and printed material distributed through the postal system, which developed in every country from the end of the 19th century onwards. Known as correspondence courses, students generally were provided with study guides, textbooks, and sometimes with supplemental reading lists. In these courses, students were expected to respond to questions that distant teacher then read and assessed. Though correspondence study did not disappear, but in fact continued to grow in most countries after the radio was invented in the 1920s and the TV in the 1940s. These new information and communication technologies were applied to distance education in the form of radio-based study talks and TV-led video-based courses. Second generation distance education. The setting up of the Open University in the Great Britain in 1969 marks the beginning of the second generation of distance education. Though the dominant technology remained print and the medium text, this was the first time an integrated multiple media approach was applied on a large scale. The Open University was known for developing large quantity of high quality materials designed especially for distance education, both one way, that is from universities to students, in the form of print, broadcast and audio tapes, and two-way communications, that is between tutor and students through corresponding tutoring, face-to-face tutorials and short residential courses, and in more recent years by telephone, video and computer conferencing were applied. Third generation distance education. The third generation of distance education uses ICTs, that is information and communication technology, as its basis for distributing information and facilitating communication between learners and teachers and learners and learners. Here, ICTs provide for two-way communications that are either synchronous, that is at the same time as in video conferencing and audio conferencing, or asynchronous, that is not at the same time as in electronic mail or most computer-based discussion forums. These technologies are sometimes added to courses characteristics of earlier generations, but they can also be used by themselves. Although computer-aided instruction was already in place in some institutions by the 1980s, only after the introduction of the World Wide Web, that is WWW, did computers and telecommunication systems have a significant teaching learning function in distance education. With the introduction of WWW in 1993, web-based distance education and training have grown tremendously. A primary reason for this is the web's ability to facilitate interaction and interactivity through networking. This facilitates faster communication and interactivity between learners and instructors, hence representing an improvement from former generations of distance education. In fact, now a high level of interactivity is even possible among learners as well as between learners and instructors. Synchronous distance learning. Learning by chatting online, teleconferencing, and sitting in a classroom. This type of learning offers less flexibility and affects the student's life to an extent. It is nevertheless the most popular form of distance learning and continuing education programs, as it makes interaction between students and professors easy. Synchronous learning is best suited for degree programs that draw attention to communication such as nursing, counseling psychology, general psychology, and general education. Asynchronous distance learning typically has set weekly time limit, but otherwise provides the students with the freedom to work at their own free will. Students have more communication with other fellow students and communicate through online notice boards. Asynchronous learning might get difficult at times because for the students, the only information they receive through text medium. However, in some classes, video or audio options is also available. Programs dominated by assignments and projects work well in asynchronous format because they provide the students with more time to focus on their work. Degree programs that work well in this format includes healthcare administration, marketing, instructional media design, legal assistant or paralegal, and advertising. Hybrid or blended courses are a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning. Hybrid learning courses are in which the students are required to be available at fixed time in the internet chat room or classroom. Though the students are allowed to complete assignments at their own pace and later submit them online. Computer-based distance learning. In computer-based learning, the students are needed to assemble in a computer lab or in a classroom at a fixed time. In these courses, the students have to log into their online accounts at a specified time. Such courses are the most common form of distance learning. Although they are absolutely online, but live chats are a regular part of the course. Example, courses offered through EDX. This type of online courses gives the maximum freedom. The students are provided with mailing lists, email, internet-based textbooks and bulletin boards to finish their assignments. At the beginning of course, the students are provided with a schedule, but they are allowed to work at their own velocity as long as the students stick to the schedule. Example, courses offered through MOOC and Open to Study. Internet-based courses. In these types, students receive instructions through websites, email, electronic bulletin boards and messaging systems. Example, open online courses. Two types of video-based distance learning courses are available. They are pre-recorded. These are already recorded videotapes that are sent to the students which they can view as per convenience. Example, short learning objects. Two-way interactive. In this, the computer, satellites, cameras and television allow teachers and students to interact. Example, online courses. Audio-based courses. This includes everything from phone conferences, radio broadcasting and pre-recorded audio CDs. These type of courses are very useful for visually impaired students. Audio teleconferencing or audio conferencing is voice-only two-way communication. Audio graphic systems use ordinary telephone lines for two-way communication and transmission of graphics and written material. Video teleconferencing systems transmit voice, graphics and images of people. Full motion video teleconferencing became popular with the advent of satellite technology. Compressed video teleconferencing technique have greatly reduced the amount of data needed to describe a video picture and have enabled the video signal to be transmitted at a lower and less expensive data rate. In desktop video teleconferencing, future development of video teleconferencing will move toward integrated desktop video teleconferencing, that is combining audio, video and data. A fusion of network, personal computer and digital video has produced the field of desktop video conferencing. Interactive instructional television systems usually use a combination of instructional television fixed service and point-to-point microwave. Integrated Services Digital Network, that is ISDN, is a new international telecommunication standard that offers a future worldwide network capable of transmitting voice, data, video and graphics in digital form over standard telephone lines or fiber optic cable. Broadcast television and radio fall under the classification of same time and different place instruction. The difference between broadcast television and radio and the previously discussed technologies under the same category is that broadcast television and radio do not provide for real time, two-way interaction between presenters and participants. Cable television began in remote rural areas, expanded into the suburbs, and has now penetrated into large urban areas. Until the beginning of the 1970s and the advent of two-way communication technologies, print and the mail system were the predominant delivery medium for distance education. Audio cassettes offered the learner control over the learning material because learners can stop, rewind, and fast forward the tape. Video cassettes are like broadcast television in that they combine moving pictures and sound, but unlike broadcast television, video cassettes are distributed differently and viewed in different ways. Computer mediated communication supports three types of online services: electronic mail, that is email, computer conferencing, and online database. The best thing about the ICT in distance education is that one can learn from anywhere and at any time. Normally, ICT in distance education offers flexibility of time. It gives complete freedom to choose own time for taking up the course. Travel is the most difficult part because it wastes lot of time, money, and more importantly, the energy. ICTs in distance education provides travel-free education. There are many schools and colleges now that offers distance education by integrating suitable ICTs so that the learner can choose from the variety of courses. Integrating suitable ICT in distance education reduces the cost of distance education compared to join a regular college. Integrating suitable ICTs in distance education makes anybody to study in distance learning without interrupting their job. The distance learning is not going to conflict with timings of the job with advanced ICTs. Even with all the advancements in ICT, distance learning does not always offer all the necessary courses online. ICTs in distance learning requires to have constant, reliable access to technology. So far we have discussed what is distance learning, types of distance learning, evolution of distance learning, and ICT in distance learning. Thank you.